Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. It's Serge here with our Set the Market morning show. We're about to get started. Let's give it another minute or so to make sure that people are able to come in. But thank you all for being here right on time. And again, we're going to get started here in just a minute. Thank you all for being here. All right, here we go. We're 2 minutes past the top of the hour. Let's get started. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. It is a very, very busy week ahead here. This is our Set the Market morning show, and we try to do 10 to 15 minutes right to the point, couple of ideas, couple of main things that we're watching Monday through Thursday. So if you're here for the first time, a warm welcome. Please, as always, ask any questions if you have any, and of course, give us feedback. If you could also subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. That not only helps you to make sure you stay up to date and you get everything sent to you in real time, but also it helps us to be able to continue to do this morning show. So let's get started. Very busy week, as I'm sure plenty of you know. I've got technology earnings this week from Microsoft and Google and Amazon and Meta, and really that's just the beginning of the list. The list is much longer, but those are some of the heavyweights. And then on Friday, we get jobless claims, or the unemployment report for the month of October. Of course, Friday being November the 1st. Thursday is Halloween, the 31st. So what does all of this mean? It means that we are probably at a pretty critical juncture, especially if you then also take into consideration next week, which of course next week we have the U.S. election and also a Fed meeting. So if I look at the calendar here and I look at sort of the next 2-week period, it is incredible how many things are all coming together at once. Most of that stuff is U.S.-centric. Let's not forget, we do have, unfortunately, geopolitical tensions out there still that are not exactly getting any better. For example, this morning, oil is down because the talk is that Israel didn't hit the Iranian energy infrastructure. I mean, if that's a reason to sell off oil, I'm not sure, what, I really don't understand the world anymore. But anyway, the point is there's a lot of things out there still that need to be, that we need to keep on our radar. So what are we going to talk about this morning? Top 2 or 3 things here. Let's go. First of all, I want to just quickly make everyone aware that all these charts look the same. Whether it's Bitcoin, which is up nicely today, nicely, 1 or 2, 1.5%, something like that, or it's Tesla underneath. A lot of these things, and the NASDAQ 100, they're all trying to coil up. And so, of course, the easy button, which is what most investors have come used to, rightly so, is that this will ultimately resolve to the upside. And so I think that analogy is correct. Of course, the question is, as I've been pointing out here for the past month, even more, and certainly to our clients on a daily basis, but could we also maybe first consolidate a little bit and then go higher, right? That's entirely possible. And I think people are not giving that any real chance of happening because, again, these breakouts aren't really meaningful in any way. Tesla, you could argue, is broken out, but not really. It's still kind of in right at the upper end of that range, but it certainly can break out. But again, it doesn't have to have immediately, considering all the news we have, we could first see a pullback. So I just wanted to point that out. It's all the same chart. So for investors that like Tesla and like Bitcoin and like AI, it's all the same chart. Speaking of AI, this is the next thing I want to talk about, point number 2. And I think this is really, really telling. So what we have here is 2 lines. We've got the semiconductor ETF, the SMH, ran by my friends over at VanEck, which is the red line. And then, of course, you've got NVIDIA, which is the blue line. And clearly, there's a very positive correlation. And that very positive correlation is there for a reason, because, of course, NVIDIA being such a heavyweight in this, and the other, the second and third largest stocks in there as well. So if those go up, this thing goes up. However, what we are seeing is there's a huge divergence in performance. And this is really where if you look at NVIDIA from a forward valuation perspective, and I realize people who look at charts don't really look at that kind of stuff, I think we're looking at a forward PE of about 26 right now. That is at the very upper end of its range. So that would mean that NVIDIA, which is already growing at a decelerating rate, growing but at a decelerating rate, that would mean that NVIDIA would have to start growing even faster than at its fastest pace that it ever has from here on going forward. Is that possible? It's possible, but the forward PE has been capped at 26 for a long time, and that's kind of where we are at right now. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because, again, I like NVIDIA. I'm not a bear, but I want to make people aware of those kind of things, which is not really something that you're going to get from your YouTube chart guy, typically. And so what we are looking at here, when we look at this performance dispersion, we can look at it this way. This is the year to date performance of essentially the SMH, and then the second largest holding in it, which is AVGO, Broadcom, and then NVIDIA, which is just an absolute beast. And again, that's really also in good part why SMH is up so much. But it's kind of running away at the upper end of its valuation. So I just want to point this out. And I'm pointing it out largely because I don't see other people talking about this very much. People talk about consolidation patterns and breakouts and all that stuff. And that's great. But ultimately, I think this hopefully, peels the onion back another couple of layers to give you some perspective on this. So just kind of keep this in mind. Again, by far the best performer in the SMH, and that is really why SMH is doing so well. But the average stock in the SMH is really not doing nearly as well. And that ultimately brings the question whether NVIDIA really has to continue rallying at this point, or could it fall into a consolidation phase? I'm more in the latter camp, but I certainly wouldn't want to be short the stock. Let's put it that way. So again, the idea would then be that maybe NVIDIA starts catching up a bit more with the broader SMH kind of play. So that's point number 2. And let's see here. And if you guys have questions, please let me know. Obviously, the point here is to make sure we address any questions. And then the third thing I want to talk about is oil. Now, this morning, if we look at oil, and we can look at it in 1,000 different ways, I'll just show you the E-mini futures here. You can see that oil is down about 6%. That is a big move in one day. Now, if you peel back this onion a little bit, I don't know why I keep talking about onions here today. Maybe because of the McDonald's news. So if you look at this move today and you try to rationalize, again, like I said before, why is oil down this morning? It's down because the worst case scenario of blowing up Iran's energy facilities didn't happen. That is crazy to think that. So that to me tells me it's a lot of machines that just react on headlines that might be marginally positive or negative, but are completely out of context. And so I'm not buying energy here this morning. I'm going to let this settle out. But something like a stock like ExxonMobil, which is one of my absolute favorite plays here, not for the next day or two or a minute or two, but the long term, where I want to buy dips. To me, this is likely, at least that's what I think right now, going to be an opportunity to pick up this stock, particularly if it were to get back into sort of the very low end of its range, which is probably closer to $100. That's still a pretty big way from here, and I know obviously the stock is down this morning, but this is just noise in my view, in terms of how the machines are reacting. So that's just my perspective on that. So there we go. The other thing to mention is that this remains a momentum market. Just keep in mind it's about momentum. That's all this is. It's a momentum market, and we want to make sure we capture these momentum moves. And we're actually doing a boot camp this week. It's completely open and free. We're doing 30-40 minutes tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we're going to talk about momentum, how to capture it, how we want to capture it after the election too. There's definitely going to be a lot of momentum plays after the election and even post earnings. So make sure you join us in that. I'm sure you've got an email on it already. So we look forward to seeing you guys there. So here we are. We're more or less right at that 10 to 15 minute mark. Maybe a bit on the lower end this week. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to stick around another minute or so. But other than that, again, just keep in mind what the correlations are between things. So it's a good time to go through a portfolio right now and kind of analyze how am I positioned. And if I'm positioned long and bullish on AI and tech and Bitcoin, just understanding that that's all the same trade. So I am bullish Bitcoin, I am bullish AI, I am bullish a lot of that stuff, but I'm raising cash. I've been raising a lot more cash over the past couple of weeks. So that's something I would keep in mind, that there's a lot of correlation risk. Nicola is asking, would you close an ExxonMobil trade? I don't know what trade you have on, but any trade that I have on, I'm certainly going to close before the earnings. Any trade, and I say trade, right? Not investment, trade, right? Like a swing trade. I'm certainly going to close before the earnings. And that includes, like, we have an ExxonMobil trade on an Inner Circle, and we will be closing that one before earnings for sure. I don't know if that's what you're referring to. Anyway, hope it helps, folks. Good start to the week. Again, please give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe to the channel. It helps you to get updated in real time when we have these live updates, reports like this, or when we have a new podcast coming out. And of course, it helps us to be able to continue to do this. So have a good start to the week. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining.